Good morning, all. It's Josh here from racingtoprofit.co.uk. Hopefully, you are having a good week and are looking forward to the weekend where there's some decent jumps racing ahead. The time is 9 a.m. as I speak to you on Thursday, the 9th of November. The aim of this video is to do a quick kind of run through on three horses which have caught my eye from a pace angle. Um, and I suppose I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video, but I've talked in a previous one, which I think has now had nearly 1,000 views. Not all family and friends, I don't think, in terms of starting points and how you can approach racing and analysing racing on a kind of horse race approach, horse-based approach, I should say, rather than looking at a race in its entirety from scratch and kind of picking out horses that way. And that kind of idea is based on a starting point. Now, a lot of my starting points are my own stats within my members club or in the free post. But I want to explore another starting point, another way in which you can, I suppose, draw up a short list of bets or horses of interest before looking in a bit more depth. And that particular way in is pace. And trying to identify horses you think may get an easy lead or maybe up there or try and get an easy lead, and then attempting to work out whether or not they may stay there or not, and whether the odds allow a kind of win bet or an each way bet. The first thing to say is I am using GG's Gold, which is a superb piece of kit, and given I use these for most of my videos, I should say that you can take a 30-day trial for £1 at the link below this video. Some of you will enjoy it, and that's what I use for pace. But I am, if I start on the 255 Ludlow as I tick round to, what am I on, 2 minutes now of chatting, you've got this pace tab here, and you can do the total. For those of you who don't know, a kind of 4 indicates the horse made all last time, a 2 was kind of mid-division, a 3 would be tracking the pace, and a 1 would be held up. Now, this is a National Hunt Novices Hurdle. I'm not interested in that. These races are based on class. They're pretty hard to determine tactics, as you know, they haven't got much evidence. And there's an 8 to 15 runner in this race anyway, so we don't want to do that. But a way in is to use this pace tab and just flick through various different races, organising by the total, which is what I do, to see who is most likely, who's got a lot of force, who has recently front run quite a bit, and who may stay there. Now, looking at this, you may think Robbins Hill is of interest. He did try and make all the last day. He's 7 to 4. When I looked through this originally, I was thinking, oh, New Agenda 12 to 1. That's interesting. I soon talked myself out of it because all of that front running form is over hurdles, and I think this might be his first chase. Yes, it is. And just kind of some thinking along that basis and that horse is, because of his inexperience over fences, it's unlikely they would be too aggressive with him. They may try and make all, but jumping fences is clearly an unknown, and that's not the type I want to be dabbling on. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. This race here, this is the 220 at Ludlow. Little Chunk is interesting, but he makes his return after a break. Tempuran is interesting. He likes to race aggressively. It looks like those two might be up there. And the market suggests that one of those two may stay there all the way, so that race is of interest. I generally like focusing on chasers, and you will hopefully see here why the first horse, which you can see listed above this video, Monbeg Charmer, you can see there's just got a load of fours. They are always aggressive with this horse and always try to make all. You can see from the pace tab up here over this kind of course and distance, or at Ludlow, the different running styles and how they do. Making all here, if you'd have found every kind of runner within whatever this data set's based on, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe all handicapped chases, possibly. In any case, finding lone front runners or those that have led 27 from 103 from this data set, and £1 on each would have won you 55 quid. So that's some indication that Ludlow is a front runner's paradise if you can get out in front and if you can get in a rhythm. So that's a starting point. We've got the idea that Monbeg Charmer may call. Now, is this horse, does he have the ability, or is he, oh, what am I doing? Yeah, does he have the ability? Is he got a chance of staying there? Now, if I open this, we know he's unexposed. So there's a chance that over fences there is going to be more to come at some point. Only had one chase run. He clearly has some ability. He won a Worcester maiden hurdle. He then won a Class 2 novice hurdle at Musselburgh. Again, making all, that was a fairly ordinary gallop. Was then, but looks like he stays, but he's unexposed over the distance anyway. Then ran in the kind of hot race at Aintree and was kind of outclassed, I think, and ended up being tailed off. Returned in September, 41 days ago. Led, jumped. So they were aggressive on this one on chase debut, which was interesting. Hung right from the 6th, headed 8th, soon lost place. There is a chance this one possibly may prefer going right-handed over fences. It's a question. But anyway, will have had the run, makes handicap debut. They put the tongue tie on for the first time, which you can see there with the T1, which is interesting enough. Marks dropped kind of £4-5, well £5, which might be generous. And they will try and make all, and I'm quite confident this one will stay, which is always helpful. Related to a 2 mile 6 hurdler. But anyway, horses and that can dictate can have a greater chance of staying, because if you can kind of do what you want in front and steady the pace, and you kind of, some horses that may not fully stay can see out the trip if you are able to dictate in front. And it's always the best place to be in over fences, is a lone front runner dictating at their own speed. We've got Orbasser here, who might just be too good, but of interest, he steps up by nearly 4 furlongs, has to prove that he stays. Got blinkers on for a second time, which may not work. Has gone up £8. Clearly got ability, and I will not fall off this particular chair that I'm sat on this morning if he romps to victory again. But at some point, he will have to chase and go past Monbeg Charmer. Now, it looks like the market is coming out is 4 to 1. What are we on? 255 Ludlow. Let's just have a look as this kind of loads, updates. Yeah, 4 to 1. I mean, there's some market support for various others. At kind of 4 to 1, I'd be tempted. Not a mad bet, but I think, I mean, I rarely go under 9 to 2. That's at the short end for me, I suppose. But in this type of race, unless something dramatically changes tactics here, which I'm not sure they're going to, Monbeg Charmer has a chance of leading and getting away on the front end. And if he can hug that rail, hanging right shouldn't be a problem, because it will be against that far side rail. If he can jump and get into a rhythm, that tongue tie may help. Handicap debuts could be anything. I mean, if he was kind of 6 to 1 or bigger, then I think that's a definite bet. Charlies are going okay. I wouldn't say they're fully out of form, but that's interesting. Now, I know the majority of you won't be signing up to GG's Gold. You will not be GG's Gold subscribers, so I will just click over to At The Races, who have their race cards, as you can see here. I've clicked on the 255 at Ludlow. Along the top here, they have a pace tab, as you can see there. And hopefully you can see this has got a pace rating of 10. The blue bar is full, so that gives you some indication that this one is going to try and make all. Now, you could then use that as a starting point before looking at the horse, say in the Racing Post, or within this race, and actually trying to look over and find. I don't use At The Races, as you can tell, but look at those in-running comments to see if he is kind of led consistently. So that's a way in terms of a free resource for pace. So what have I ticked round to? 9.5 minutes. That's Monbeg Charmer at 4 to 1. I probably will throw a 5 rat for interest. The next one, I want to jump over to Ireland. God help us all. I rarely play over the Irish Sea unless it's a kind of big handicap chase and I've got some stats or trends to help me out. Shamiran is the one, this 12-year-old. He was 12s. Is he being backed? I probably need to get some money on soon enough. Well, he is, and that does not surprise me at all. I think with a fifth of the odds, you can either go to win. I think he looks a pretty interesting each way bet in this race. You will see here that he is, if I click on the pace tab, the way in is pace. You've got this. I want to click on total. You might use at the races. Obviously, we've got two horses that consistently have tried to dominate their fields in the last few runs. Shamiran led and clear at the third, 15 lengths advantage with a circuit to race. Lead much reduced, 4 out, joined 2 out, soon headed weakened to fourth, open 16 to 1. Led there. This one has been close up, actually not led, led briefly, but hasn't consistently led. So I reckon might just tuck in and track this particular horse. So I've got pace, I've got a way in, and this is a horse-based approach. I do not need to worry too much about making case for other runners. I can click on the instant expert and see who looks interesting, and clearly you can see there that Hard Bought looks interesting at 3s, and that is actually probably the main danger based on that profile against race conditions. But this is a horse-based approach. Now this one is 12, but what I want to highlight of interest, yes, he is 0 from 27 places chasing. Good Lord, that is why you do want a kind of 9, 10, 10 to 1 or bigger. But if I click on handicaps and handicap chases, he's 0 from 13, 4 places. I want to click on the trainer, and he is only, well, he's 0 from 2, 1 place for this trainer in kind of handicap chases. What I want to highlight is the fact that this horse is back with S. Nolan, having he trained him 1, 2, 3, 4 for 5 runs back in kind of 2015, responsible for one of his wins. He was kind of up to a rating of 120 over hurdles. He didn't do much chasing, but he returned to his yard over the summer. He raced over 16 furlongs in a flat handicap, maybe is that? I'm not quite sure. Where he led. He raced over 25 furlongs this run here on the 8th. Led clear at third. That was the one where he weakened in. There's no kind of in-running comments for this Fairy House race. I'm assuming and hoping that he led or tried to make all. He just ran out of gas here at Kilbeggan, I think. Another thing of interest is the direction. I think going right-handed might suit him. But the point is here, I think he will get away on the front end. He's got a lightweight here. His rating has fallen through the floor. He is very well handicapped. He comes here fit. He is in form. They will try and make all with him. We shall see if he is good enough. These conditions look fine. What was of interest against this last run is that they're over 18 furlongs here, so they've dropped another couple, 2 or 3 furlongs in trip. And if he can get away, get into a jumping rhythm on the front end, there is a chance that he does make all and stay there. He's up against quite a few other old boys, quite a few other horses that look completely out of form. And I think he's got a good chance of placing. I'd kind of be disappointed if he didn't go close here, actually. Hard Bought looks like the main danger. This Ender Bolger horse also looks like he's up there, but he isn't exactly a winning machine. He's just been running consistently, but it's 3 to 1. So at a double figure price for a kind of £5 each way or £10 on the nose or something, I think Shamiran looks interesting in the 125. So that's your starting point. I've kind of had a look at him. I want the double figure price because there's clearly questions. He's 12. He hasn't won a chase yet. But there are reasons for hope. He's back with his old trainer. His handicap marks down. He's running in form. He's dropped a couple of furlongs back in trip. And there's a chance with this ground that he might be able to get away on the front end. So we shall see if he can do just that. The final horse of a kind of front runner of interest is the 3:45 at Market Raisin. Crookstown at 9, another 10-year-old. Now, just have a sip of my coffee, which is getting cold. This is, well, let's just see. He's fit to race conditions, no problem. If I put that up to 2 mile 4, you'll see there that he's fine. He's £7 below his last winning mark. Of some interest, and this is the other way in, John Joe horse was kind of held up the last day. Crookstown led the second. I'm thinking they may try and make all here. Not as bomb-proof, and I wouldn't be as confident as that last horse that I've just discussed. But he fits race conditions, and now I want the reason for why should I have a play at those odds. Well, as Mark comes down, he's got another top jockey booked. He is a Class 3 animal, has the ability for Class 3. He unseated Ryder at Worcester. He may have lost his confidence over fences, so they've come back over hurdles. He returned after kind of 3 months off at Uttoxeter, where he was clear and he was headed and weakened kind of 3 out. He drops back a couple of furlongs here. He may have needed the run. He may have needed the run to acclimatise back over the hurdles. It may be that he's completely out of form. But if I flick over to horse race base and look at his profile, in handicap hurdles, you will see that he is 2 from 3 places at Market Raisin in handicap hurdles. The trip is fine, the class is fine, the handicap rating here is fine. All of his wins have been when 12 to 1 or shorter. The rest pattern is fine. You will see here that the his 3 from 7 5 places going right-handed, and as yet hasn't done much going left-handed in handicap hurdles, which might be another excuse for why he was so poor on the last day. So they're all different kind of things that you can look at there. And I think overall, because of that pace angle, because of his form at the track, because he might have come on for that last run, yes, he's 10, but I think he looks an interesting each way bet if all 8 run. I say each way because I am scared of that Dan Skelton favourite. That was a slowly run and poor race, and I wouldn't be I wouldn't be confident that he might follow up there. But he's in form and he's lightly raced, and it's Team Skelton. But 5 to 4 might be short enough. If Noel Feely can dictate and gets Crookstown away on the front end, the others will have to come and catch him at some point. And I'm not 100% sure some of these will be able to. So at what could be 8, 9 to 1, let's have a quick look at the market. Where are we? Here, yeah, you've got 9 to 1 Paddy Power, 9 to 1 Betfair, 8 to 1 General. Again, he might be interested for kind of £5 each way for change. Hopefully, he isn't completely out of sorts and out of form, and he will place at worst. And I think that's it. There's one other I want to mention, which has nothing to do with pace, in the 140 at Newbury, who may be getting on the short side, but Henry Parry Morgan, probably add him to your trackers if he doesn't bolt up today. This horse is on 133. He hit a rating of 150 at one point in the that was the Hennessy Gold Cup, wasn't it? He hacked up in a Uttoxeter Class 2 novice handicap chase over 24 furlongs. He then lost his way a bit, but his handicap mark, excuse me, has fallen through the floor. He's got another £7 off here with the excellent James Bowen in the saddle. That takes him to kind of 126, having been 150. Not many runs ago. He ran well for a long way in the Grade 1 Scottish Grand National. He drops to a Class 3 here, having run in Grade 2s and Grade 3s. This will feel like a kind of, well, much calmer waters. Peter Bowen is in form. The horse has won after a break before. If I just click on this, 60 days, you can see there. So I think if they want him to be fit, he will be. The big question clearly is his well-being and also the trip. He drops in trip. Now it's doing something different, which I like. There's a chance because of that, and they know he stays further, that they are really aggressive with him. If there wasn't much pace on paper in this, I'd be quite excited that he could make all. You've got Grey Boog, who probably will need the run. Nigel Hawke is 0 from 19, won places in the last 2 years with chasers, handicap chasers returning 60 days or more off the track. So he might be up there for a time before hopefully fading. The Lavelle horse might try and be up there. So will the Venetia Williams horse. She's 0 from 21, won places in the last 14 days. She hasn't yet got going at what normally is a good time of year for her. So we'll see how that one runs. And Henry Parry Morgan normally tracks a pace. He can hit a fence, but hopefully they'll go a slower pace here than he's used to in those big Grade 3 chases. He was 11 to 2 last night, maybe 4 to 1's getting on the tight side. If you can get 9 to 2, 5 to 1 or something, I think he's interesting, because if he returned to his best and the trip's fine, he could absolutely blow this lot out of the water. Now, so that's 4 horses I've mentioned. Two are kind of old boys. The other is very inexperienced over fences. Um, they might all fall out the back of the TV and not run very well at all. That's kind of irrelevant. If I'd have done this approach yesterday, I may have focused or picked out Paddy the Oscar, who won at 14s at Chepstow, and I'm really annoyed I didn't pick him out and put him up because it was obvious he would get an easy lead, and he was a decent each way bet. Of course, I'm saying that in hindsight, but I didn't give him enough time or study the race in depth. But the thing to take away from this video is pace and using at the races maybe if you don't want to try Gigi's Gold or are not a member as a starting point and as a way in. And if you become an expert in front runners and pace, getting that short list of 4 or 5 horses each day in handicap company, ideally in chases, but hurdles works fine as well. As your starting point, you can then use that and try and home in on decent priced horses, decent priced each way bets that you think might stay there. So yeah, if you want some ideas, I suppose, for how to approach racing on a daily basis, if you don't have time to trawl through cards and horses to follow and tracker horses and this, that, and the other, as a starting point, I would highly recommend trying to become a pace make all expert. And I think you can have a lot of fun with that approach. You normally get a good run for your money, and you will get better over time, as I probably need to do as well, at homing in on those horses that might make all. I picked out a couple at Musselburgh yesterday for members and in a through the card video. John Williams and Blue Cascade, who are clearly going to be on the front end and had every chance of making all, and they absolutely did so and hacked up. So this approach does find winners and will find winners moving forwards, and it's a good idea for you if you haven't thought about it as a way in. And now, because of the at the races pace tabs as a free resource, everyone has the chance to do that. So I would recommend that as a starting point. I think I've droned on long enough. I hope you found that video of some use and of some interest, and it may have given you some ideas moving forward. The final point I will make is trying to become an expert in something is key to your betting success. And that starting point, that pace, having an area of the game that you feel comfortable in and that you can really focus on, will see you have massive dividends for your enjoyment and experience of horse racing, and with any luck, your profit over time. So take that, do what you want with it, but I hope you found that of some use. I wouldn't go mad on those 4 I've mentioned. Hopefully one can win, or maybe 2, or in any case, they all run well. Fingers crossed, touch wood. So yes, thanks for watching, and until the next time, this is Josh saying bye for now.